So we're going back into our 7th grade. There's a few things I want to draw attention to that have come up, and we're going way back in time here. The last thing we talked about was probably chance versus strategy. There's this XKCD comic strip here, the Nerds webcomic. And you can see all the tic-tac-toe moves are plotted out in these 2 easy graphs. Very visually appealing, I got to say. But if your game is simple enough that it can be plotted out like this, you might not have designed your game well enough. This is how tic-tac-toe can be won or drawn in any scenario. Okay? So, yeah, check that out. I guess X traditionally goes first, and that's why it's done this way. So I put that up in the classroom for you to look at. I also put up some virtual game resources for us to use. Okay, so I have random.org, which is a really cool website. It has lots of different random number generators. So for example, I can easily generate a number from 1 to 100, and the result is 54. Let's try another one. 63. Cool. We can do a dice roller. How many virtual dice? 4. Let's roll them. We just randomly rolled 4 random dice. Google also has virtual dice. There we go. Roll dice is the roll a dice. So this is a 6-sided. We can get rid of it by clicking it. Do we want a 20-sided die? We can roll a 20-sided die. And if you hit roll, it rolls. You get the random roll there. Pretty cool. 12-sided. We can add lots of different die to our, what about like a custom number? What's maybe a 34-sided? So add some number to your roll total. Oh, I see that adds. Okay, we don't want to do that. So we can roll them all, and then we get a total. This is probably very good. Later on, we're going to get into games where you use crazy die like these. So that is just if you hit roll dice, I think that is how you get there on just Googling it. See if it works. Slow computer. There it is. Roll dice. So random.org is another one, and there you can go through here. You can flip coins. Checking my browser first. How many coins should we flip? Select a coin type. Wow, we can roll a British £1 sterling coin. Flip coins, and it has images of them. We got tails twice. Flip again. Heads twice. How could that be? 1 and 1. So yeah, random.org. We also have deck of cards, which we may have checked out last week. Let's see here. We have a deck of cards, and I found this to be a little bit weird because there's a few kind of functions that it's missing, which would help to make it really usable. One thing is that you can, like, anybody can click and move around other people's cards. As you can see, these were not shuffled, and that's why they're like this. So I can hit shuffle, it combines them, and now the cards have hypothetically been randomized. So now they're random. And if I hit multiplayer, it generates a link, and 3 other people can join me. And this becomes, you see this rectangle, it becomes a card table, and I can deal cards to each player's position. And like as with a real deck of cards, you could reach across the table and look at someone else's card. It wouldn't be very polite, but this allows you to do that. So it's a very simple game, a simple platform. for testing card games, but it could work for you. Lastly, we've got, let's see, what else have we got here? A bit of gaming news. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but this person laughing his butt off over here is Hikaru Nakamura, a Japanese chess grandmaster. And the reason he's laughing so hard is that he and another grandmaster had a chess game where they opened with it's almost a troll move. There was somebody apparently on chess.com who was trying to get the lowest possible rating. In chess, your rating is determined by how well you do against other players according to their ratings. Magnus Carlsen, that's right. And let's say I have a rating of 1200 and you have a rating of 1300 and I beat you at chess. My rating goes up, your rating goes down. It's kind of like in Highlander, you get power from defeating your enemies, and you lose power from losing to your enemies. And if you are a very strong chess player and you lose to a very weak chess player by their rating, you lose a lot more points than if you lose to a stronger chess player. John asks, can you get negative? I don't know, but I think that's what this player was trying to do. And their absolute worst move that they could possibly play was called the bomb cloud attack, which is, it's so bad it's funny, and that's why we're laughing so hard. So if you are a chess player, check this out. You can read all about it. It's making big headlines right now because we just never see stuff like this happen. That brings us to today's lesson, which is, I apologize in advance, this is really more of a lecture. So before we get too far along, I want to talk about a few other kinds of games that are worth exploring. We're going to go over the accompanying slide presentation together. Here I am recording it for people who are asynchronous for whatever reason. This week, we're also going to start organizing classes into groups to collaborate on creating and testing games. That's something that hopefully we're going to do over break. At some point before spring break, I will post a form for you to report on the progress of your game testing. Other types of games. So when chance and strategy don't quite cover it in terms of describing the way that a game is played, we've learned about how games contain elements of chance, which is like randomness, luck, and so on, and strategy, which is like planning, reacting to what's happening in the game, using control over your options, and most importantly, perhaps making decisions. That's what strategy is all about, making decisions. But what do you call it when you have to use your physical reflexes and fine motor skills, like in Jenga, or in physical card games like slap poker and spoons? What do you call it when you have to do something social, like read someone's mind, or draw, or make words, or make them laugh, such as in Apples to Apples, Cards Against Humanity, Taboo, Codenames, Scrabble, Boggle, Pictionary, Mastermind, Battleship? Let's start with games like Jenga. Jenga is almost more of a parlor sport, like pool, billiards, or darts. In fact, you find large versions of Jenga games in many of the same places. You find games like beanbag toss, mini golf, and horseshoes and stuff like that. It's not really a board game or a card game. So unfortunately for this unit, we are not going to be covering games like Jenga, okay? Physical card games. These are games that often contain elements of both strategy and chance, but they also include elements of physical ability or interaction. This makes them great fun to play in person in social situations, but it makes it almost impossible to play them over the internet or in an app. So not so great during COVID. Something to keep in mind when you're finding a game to modify for a future assignment. Social games that require specialized skills. Let's talk about this. We've got Apples to Apples and its intentionally edgy cousin, Cards Against Humanity. We've got Taboo. We've got Codenames, just to name a few. These are card games that rely on word association. Words form the basis of much of our culture and therefore our humor. If you can make people associate 2 hours of gameplay with 2 hours of laughter and having a good time, you've got a successful game. However, these types of games are very difficult to play in groups of people who don't all share the same culture. They're even difficult to play among groups of people who don't all share the same sense of humor or the same mentality about life. So like before you even get to culture, you got to play these games with people who kind of get you. And they can even be the opposite of fun otherwise. I once played Apples to Apples with a couple of people who were very literal minded, and it was not fun. Apples to Apples is fun because you make funny word associations and you laugh. And when you're only looking for the most literally similar words, the whole thing falls apart and it's not fun to play with them. Although other people who are also into finding the most literal associations between words might have had a better time playing with that couple. I don't know. So when you're designing a game, just see if you can try to make it fun for different groups of people to play together. Maybe look for ways so that it doesn't have to depend on everybody sharing the same culture. So how do we cross cultural boundaries and still make our games fun? Word building games. There are some games that simply require you to have a large vocabulary or be very good at recognizing patterns in words. Wordplay might be a good way to describe these types of games. For people who are interested in wordplay, these games can be a lot of fun and even sort of addictive because they're often very challenging, especially if you're playing against other players who are skilled at them. However, for people who are either not very interested or not very skilled in wordplay, these games can be tedious and even induce serious anxiety. Pretty much the opposite of what a well-designed game should do. So when you design a game, you have to ask yourself, who's going to enjoy this? You can start by thinking about why you enjoy the game yourself. This is a photo of Nigel Richards. He's the guy on the right with the glasses. He's a several times over world Scrabble champion. I look at this photo of him winning at Scrabble and I think, first of all, is he having fun? Does he look like he's having fun? Or does he look like he just finished a piece of work at the office? Do you think it would be fun to play Scrabble against him? Personally, I do not think so. This is a guy that probably spends his free time memorizing the Scrabble dictionary, right? So that he can just win at Scrabble all the time because that's his job. I think that because if I was a professional Scrabble player, that's what I would do for 10 hours a day. I would read and memorize the Scrabble dictionary. That is the only skill you need, right? He doesn't need to know how to make a great plate of nachos, which for most of us when we're playing Scrabble, that's also a good skill to have, right? Because it's a game that you play with friends and family around. You're having the snacks, you've got your soda, and you're just kind of having fun with the comparatively minuscule vocabulary that you have on hand so that you can put together a word like dog, right? Then that kind of leads us into drawing or niche skill games. So games like Pictionary and Elements of Cranium call on players to employ a mix of word association and drawing, sculpting, and other visual communication skills. By the way, I would put trivia games under this same umbrella of niche skills, right? If you know a lot of random facts about stuff, you're going to be good at Trivial Pursuit, especially if you know a lot about a certain category of things that your Trivial Pursuit game specializes in. Like if you have the Star Trek Trivial Pursuit, or if you have the Trivial Pursuit that's all about American history or something like that, then maybe that would be fun for you and your buddies who are also really big nerds to play. But that's not a game that's going to be fun for a lot of different kinds of people to play together. As with Scrabble, players with a wider vocabulary of visual communication will have an advantage here. One reason the online drawing game Scribble.io or Scribble.io, how do you guys pronounce that? Scribble.io? I say Scribble.io, and I've also seen Scribble.io. One reason that game can be fun for everyone is that the drawing tools are clunky and difficult to use, and there's a time limit, so everyone's drawings end up being more or less equally terrible, right? And fun to watch in real time, especially when the prompts are challenging. We are in it for the lulz. But creating games like these works better when you can set some clear goals rather than assigning arbitrary amounts of points to players based on their performance. So like in Scriblio, you get points depending on like how quickly you guess a word or how quickly somebody guesses your drawing. But we don't really know, who's the little man behind the curtain assigning points. So if you're using something like this in a game, it might be helpful to incorporate it into other, maybe more transparent ways of keeping track of gameplay. This also would allow you to integrate the visual communication aspect of the game into a larger set of strategies and goals. So like maybe if somebody guesses your word right, it allows you to advance your piece on a board that lets you do other stuff, right? You can now tie it to other strategies. Then we have like mind challenge games. So for lack of a better term, games like Mastermind or their simpler cousins like Memory, let's just call them mind challenge games. I don't know if there's actually a term for these types of games, but basically they have to do with like deep thinking skills. They're designed to utilize logical thinking and memorization skills, right? So you've got like process of elimination, you've got logic, you've got memorization, these kind of skills that you can kind of train your brain to do, and people do train their brains to do it. But it's not skills that everybody necessarily brings to game night. Whether or not they include elements of chance or strategy is not really central to the type of game, although these elements can add dimension to the game. If you have really good memorization skills, you don't really need a great strategy. All you have to do is memorize and regurgitate, right? If you have really good process of elimination, logic skills, you don't really need any other strategy. It's just you're using process of elimination really well. If you can think of a way to add chance or especially some other strategy than logic or process of elimination to a memorization game to make it more interesting, challenging, or most importantly, fun, you're going to make a better game. And Mastermind is already really popular. So like, how do you improve that? So for the next activity, we're going to start zeroing in on ideas for games and learning about just a few other types of games by playing them. Create a game of your own and test it out with the people you live with or are around. If you created a modification to a game during the last activity that you are happy with or want to continue to explore, you should use that. But if you want to try something new, you can also modify another game or create something original based on some of the ideas we've discussed so far. And I will be posting a list of interesting games for us to try out over break. Some game elements and structures to consider. So turns, will your game be played in turns or will play happen simultaneously? Are you going to have chance, strategy, or other elements of the game? Will your game rely on chance, a strategy, a combination, or some other element? Oh, I'm just repeating myself. Let's talk about skinning real quick. As you design your game, what kinds of imagery and aesthetics seem to be most appropriate? Try to come up with something that fits, but is also original. It should be your idea. And we're going to get into this more as we go on. Skinning basically means it's the visual theme of your game. It is what the game looks like. It has a lot to do with the terminology that you use to describe the turns and players and pieces and everything that your game includes. And usually it has to make sense. So like if we look at chess, for example, chess is a board game. The skin on chess is basically two medieval armies doing battle with each other. You have kings and queens, you have knights, you have rooks that look like little castles. This is imagery that evokes medieval Europe, basically, right? Medieval European warfare. You could reskin chess so that it's two sports teams having a competition. You could reskin chess so that it is gangs, in like some contemporary city. However, there are skins that you could come up with for chess that wouldn't make so much sense. An example I gave recently was scientists versus puppies. While visually appealing, it wouldn't really make sense for chess because there is no way for us to kind of wrap our heads around easily the visual idea of a team of scientists going to war against a team of puppies. Just as an example. You could be creative and force that into the structure of chess, but it wouldn't make sense. So it might be funny, but at some point it would start to kind of fall apart. It would be harder to memorize what player does what and so on. And that's one of the reasons chess has that skin, is because you can kind of use your brain and think, oh, well, the queen is important, and that's why she has a very powerful ability to move, right? And you think of a pawn, which is somebody that just gets used and then cast aside. And in chess, the pawns are very weak players. They can't do a whole lot, right? So the skin on chess kind of makes a lot of sense for what the different elements of the game are. And then you want to think about the platform. Can your game be played using internet-based tools, or does it need to be played in person? And that's something that we will continue to explore together. Again, I created that kind of parking lot for internet-based tools. So if you do find something, please bring it to my attention. I'll take a look at it, and if it passes muster, I will throw it up there and share it with everybody else. Remember, the rules of your game are your game. In order for your game to exist, you need to write its rules. You need to write them completely without any omissions. You need to write them clearly without any confusion or confusing language. So what I would recommend is write the rules and read them to someone, and if then they understand your game correctly, you've probably done it right. You need to write the rules in a way that is the most useful for playing the game, with instructions and descriptions being given in the order that they are needed or needed to be known. In a previous lesson, I gave you an outline for how to write the rules of a game. You're welcome to use that. Or if you have another way of explaining how to play your game that just works better, try it out, make sure you're right about that, and go ahead and use it. The last thing I want to do during class today is to figure out some game design teams so that when we go to create games, we will have a designated set of people that we are going to test them with.